Okay, nutrition and pain. So this education session looks at what changes we can make to our diet to help our pain. It's the second education session, so if you haven't watched the first PowerPoint, then it's a good idea to go back and watch that one first. Okay, so what changes should we make? So there's evidence for altering our overall diet rather than trying to follow a set diet that may be difficult to maintain. We want to make lifestyle changes that you'll be able to continue long term. We want to focus on introducing healthier foods, and that means you might have less room for unhealthy alternatives. If you're overweight, portion size is going to be quite important, so we might want to think about introducing smaller portion sizes. And then we're briefly going to have a look at support groups. So for some people, actually, they might struggle with weight loss, they might struggle with diet and nutrition, and actually being part of a support group can be really useful. And finally, we want to have a look at improving sleep quality, because obviously in the previous presentation, we saw that there can be links between poor sleep and the hormones that affect your diet.
Okay, so just to start with, we're going to have a look at the different food groups. So just have a think and see if you can name the food groups just before I show you on the slides. So pause the video if you need to have a bit more of a think. But the first one's fruit and veg. So we should be consuming at least 5 portions of fruit and veg a day. These are good source of vitamins, minerals and fibres. And at meal times, you should aim to have half of your plate covered with veg. Polyphenols are compounds found in fruit and vegetables, and polyphenols have antioxidants and anti-inflammatory properties. Starchy carbohydrates. So starchy foods should make up over 1/3 of what we eat. Ideally, you can choose high fibre or whole wheat varieties, such as brown rice. These are slightly healthier alternatives to kind of your white rice and your white pastas. Okay, dairies or dairy alternatives. They're a good form of protein and contain lots of vitamins, such as calcium, which is, we'll get onto a slide in a minute and we'll tell you why vitamins and minerals are important. Proteins. So proteins are your meats, fish, beans and lentils. Beans, peas and lentils are good alternatives to meat. They are also lower in fat and high in fibre and protein. So if you are perhaps struggling to lose weight and you're eating lots of kind of meats and things, they sometimes contain high levels of fat. So good alternatives would be to replace them with lentils. You could also choose lean cuts of meat and reduce your consumption of red meats such as bacon, ham and sausages, as these contain higher levels of fats. You should also aim for 2 portions of fish a week. Sugar and high fat foods. So these can still be eaten, but they may need to be reduced, eaten in smaller amounts or eaten less often. So you can still have chocolate bar, but it might just be that maybe you have half instead of eating a full one. Water, so 6 to 8 cups of water a day. Dehydration leads to increased sensitivity to pain. It's also really important for transporting nutrients around the body and eliminating waste. Poor fluid intake can lead to delayed wound healing, particularly in the older population. So thirst is often mistaken for hunger, and if people drink enough water, they may find that they consume less food. So there's just a diagram of what we call the healthy eating plate, and it just shows you all those different food groups we spoke about, and kind of the proportions that you should be looking at for a healthy diet.
Okay, so we're going to have a look at how the different food groups could help with pain and recovery. So we've got omega fats. So these are your healthy fats. They can be found in avocados, oily fish, olive oil, salmon, walnuts. So we've got research suggests that food with omega-3s, which are in those omega fats, can increase your anti-inflammatory enzymes, and this can help to reduce pain. They also enhance the immune system, And omega-3 is something that can't be made in the body. So it's really important that we are consuming enough of these healthy fats. So we've got fruit and veg. This decreases inflammation, high in fibre, helps to regulate you and helps to absorb the nutrition. We spoke about omega fats, the healthy fats, so we should just mention the unhealthy fats as well. So we want to reduce polyunsaturated fats. So these are things such as sunflower oil, and your more unhealthy, the more unhealthy things. The properties of omega-3 and polyunsaturated fats actually fight for the same enzyme in the body. Omega-3 changes them into anti-inflammatory enzymes, and polyunsaturated turn them into inflammatory enzymes. So we can talk a little bit more about it later, but there might be some things that are really simple changes you could make, such as if you're cooking with sunflower oil, you're using margarines and things, it might be worth just making that simple change over to using olive oil instead. We've got dairy, so calcium's really good for healing and for strong bones, so that can be really important in a population who might have had injuries. Protein's good for muscle recovery, so good source of protein, vitamins and minerals can all help with muscle recovery. And we've got carbohydrates, so that's a good source of energy. So that's your starchy foods that we discussed in the last slide. Energy is important to allow us to become more active, and we know that movement is good to decrease pain. So although we want to cut down sort of portion sizes, for some people, we still need to make sure that we're getting enough of a source of energy.
Okay, so checking the food labels. So all food packaging has serving labels on. So the colour red will show you if something's particularly high. For example, on the one on the screen, it shows that it's high in sugars. Orange is medium and green is low, so it contains, the one on the screen contains kind of low servings of fat. If you're struggling to manage what you're eating or unsure of what's in the food that you are eating, check the food labels just to have a look, and then you can have a look at different brands and different varieties of food and compare them and choose which one is best for you, and find an alternative. The food labels will also tell you how many calories per serving. So if you're looking to maintain your weight or lose weight, it may be worth knowing how many calories you're consuming a day. So women require approximately 2,000 calories and men require 2,500 calories. And this informs all your food and drink. However, it does depend on how active you are. So people who are really, really active, you're looking at kind of your ultra marathon athletes and things like that, they do consume slightly more calories because they burn lots of calories with their activity.
So the first take-home message for this education session: a loss of 5 to 10% of body weight can positively impact your pain. So for people who are struggling with weight loss, this isn't actually a huge amount that we've got to lose before you should actually start to see that your pain is improving.
Okay, on to vitamins and minerals. So I know that looks like a lot of information on the slide. Feel free to pause the video to have a little look in more detail if you need to. But why are vitamins and minerals important? So as you can see from the function column in the middle there, lots of them help to form red blood cells, carry oxygen. Oxygen is required obviously for healing, so that's really important. They help to release energy from food sources, and obviously we've said that we need that energy for exercise. Some of them help to break down fat as well, which again is going to be really important for losing weight. They also help to regulate your mood and hormones. So common micronutrient deficiencies in people experiencing pain include vitamin D, vitamin B12 and magnesium. Vitamin D comes primarily from the exposure to sunlight, is an antioxidant and associated with muscle fatigue. Vitamin B12 plays a role in neurological processes related with pain, and magnesium is associated with muscle spasms, inflammation, and neuropathic pain. Deficiency in these micronutrients may exacerbate your pain. So the best way to achieve vitamin and mineral intake is to consume a wide range of nutrient-dense foods. So for example, meats, fish, and dairy are all good sources of vitamin B12. Fish and eggs for vitamin D, and green leafy vegetables and whole grains are high in magnesium. And again, if you can get out in the sunlight when we have sun here in the UK, it will also be good for your vitamin D as well. There's just a few more on that slide, but feel free to have a pause and have a read if you need to.
So diet and sleep, as we found from the previous education session, there's quite a lot of links between diet, what you eat, and sleep. So a study at King's College in London found that increasing sleep in people who regularly had less than 7 hours of sleep significantly decreased their intake of sugary foods and drinks. So this suggests that if you're not getting enough sleep, then sometimes you will be reaching for those sugary foods to try and keep you going throughout the day. We know that caffeine takes 2 to 7 hours to metabolize in the body. So our suggestion would be to avoid caffeine in the afternoons to help with a good night's sleep. Some people find caffeine affects them more than others, but actually sometimes once you've started to reduce this, it can be quite useful for regulating your sleep. We've got reducing alcohol, particularly large quantities in the evening. So alcohol can affect your REM sleep, and your REM sleep is really important for you actually getting a good night's sleep, getting the deep sleep that you need to help your body to heal. And we've got increasing tryptophan. So this is something that's found in protein foods. It's not made within the body, but it is changed into serotonin in the body. And serotonin is a hormone that's important for REM sleep. So again, if you're not getting very good quality of sleep, we can try decreasing caffeine, decreasing alcohol, but actually increasing the amount of protein you're eating can sometimes help with your sleep.
Okay, so medication changes. So I know in the first presentation we spoke about several types of medication that may have an effect on your weight and your appetite. So it might just be considering, is it time for a medication review? Perhaps either contacting your GP or speaking to us to see if we can help you with an appointment with our consultant anaesthetist here.
So psychology management techniques. So there's a few management techniques that we use that can sometimes help with relaxation, meditation, and correct vitamins and minerals can also be really important for your mood. And we do have links with a psychologist who will do some education sessions. If you feel you need a little bit more support in this area, then you can always speak to your key therapist.
Okay, so support groups. So this is just a list of local support groups. So you've got your Weight Watchers and your Slimming World. There's one in Wiltshire as well called Shape Up for Life. So it may just be worth having a little Google of those and seeing what they're all about. And if it interests you, it might be a way of meeting new people, having a look at some different recipes and things as well. And then they just offer you that little bit more kind of group support for managing your weight. Also apps as well. There's lots of apps now that you can download on your phone, and you can kind of take pictures of the barcodes and things, and it will give you a bit of information about what's in the food that you're buying, but perhaps as well give you some alternatives to buy that might be slightly healthier.
So what are our take-home messages? So we want to make some small changes, but they can make some quite big differences. So we're looking at decreasing inflammation by increasing quality and variety of fruit and veg. So we could increase variety by using frozen mixed vegetables. They can easily be incorporated into a stir fry or casserole. They're easy and quick to use and can be stored for long periods, which reduce the need to go to the shops if that's something you struggle with. Frozen fruits and veg are also a healthy option as they maintain their nutritional quality. So if you haven't got access to a lot of fresh fruit and veg, then frozen might be a good alternative. Suggestion to try a different type of fruit each week, and that can help you to just introduce new things into your diet. Reducing salt canned vegetables. So, reduced salt canned vegetables can also be incorporated into dishes like stews and pasta dishes. So again, that's something that you can have in your cupboard readily available. At every main meal, you should aim for half your plate to be covered in vegetables and try to include vegetables as a snack as well. So sometimes when we're going to the snack cupboard, then vegetables might be a good option.
So the next one is consume good quality fats. So we spoke a little bit about this earlier. But looking to see if we can swap out perhaps the sunflower oil or margarine that you're cooking with for olive oil, which is your good quality fats containing omega-3, and perhaps looking at as well at fish alternatives rather than red meats.
Okay, so preventing vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So we need to consume a wide range of nutrient-dense foods to ensure you're meeting your vitamin and mineral requirements. If you aren't meeting these requirements, you can sometimes take supplements, but that might be something that you want to discuss with your GP, and usually it is better if you can to try and get them from your diet.
Okay, so the next one is consume plenty of water. So we spoke about this earlier. We're looking for kind of 6 to 8 cups of water a day. If this is something that you struggle with, it might be worth buying a water bottle that you can carry around with you and just kind of taking sips, quite often to help you achieve that goal of 6 to 8 cups a day. If you're not a fan of kind of plain water, you could try adding fresh fruit to it, or look at reduced sugar squash as well is another alternative, but trying to steer clear of your teas and coffees that contain caffeine, which are diuretics, which mean that they might make you go to the toilet more often and therefore dehydrate you. So that's not to say you can't have tea or coffee, because I'm a big fan of tea, but it's perhaps looking at how much you consume compared to water.
Increasing your fibre intake. So this could be as simple as switching to wholemeal, whole grain breads, pastas, maybe thinking about eating a healthier breakfast cereal with a higher fibre content and less sugar, so that you're starting the day nice and healthily. And this can sometimes stop you feeling so hungry early on as well. And eating mixed vegetables and fruits with the skin on. So the skin of fruit and veg tends to contain fibre, so it's useful to be eating some fruit and veg that you haven't peeled.
Okay, so reduce and limit processed foods and sugar intake. So that's not to say you can't have, your sugar and your chocolate and things like that, but it's looking at how you can reduce them if you think you might be eating them too often. So one example might be that if you do have a chocolate bar, you might just be eating half of it rather than all of it. Or it might be, can you reduce the amount of sugar and things that you put in your tea and coffee? Or some people add like sugar to breakfast cereal and things like that. So can it be kind of reducing those types of things to reduce the overall amount of sugar that you eat a day?
So consider making diet changes to help improve your sleep. So more regular eating patterns, higher protein content, and no caffeine after midday.
So a small amount of weight loss could significantly decrease your pain. It's not to say, you have to look at big kind of weight losses to have an impact on your pain. These small things that you could make change in your day-to-day diet could just lead to a small amount of weight loss, which actually could have a significant impact on your pain and your function and your day-to-day activities.
So planning meals ahead. It's been shown that you're able to stick to a healthier eating if you plan your meals ahead, because you've already chosen what you're going to have in them. And having easily accessible healthy snacks. Planning meals ahead can also stop you just having last minute takeaways and things that we don't often know what's in them, but they do contain high levels of fats and sugars.
So the last one is replace unhealthy snacks in the cupboard with healthier alternatives. Sometimes this can be quite tricky, but it might be using one of those apps to have a little look at slightly healthier alternatives, or thinking about having veg sticks as a healthy snack, or looking at kind of healthier, low sugar cereal bars and things like that to help reduce the amount of unhealthy snacks you're consuming.
And it might be useful once you've started to try and make some of these small changes, that if you revisit the food quiz that we did in the last education session, and you can just see whether your score's improving and have a look at a few more of the tips they give you for trying to improve your diet.